Hey friends, Anne from Doubting Believer, and as we head into spooky season, it's time to talk about being not afraid, because that is something the Bible tells us over and over again. The Old Testament, the New Testament, God tells us, Jesus tells us, the prophets tell us, be not afraid, fear not. The angels tell us. I'm just put some verses up here, but there are people who say that you can find a fear not or a be not afraid for every day of the year, 365 times. I think you have to do a little spiritual juggling and math to make that all come out all right. But you know what? I'm going to give it to him because it's in there a lot. There probably is one for every day of the year. And as we've learned in Health Hacks from the Bible, if you're following along with that, not only does God say that fear is not good for us, Jesus says fear is not good for us, science says fear is not good for us. It has an adverse effect on our physical health. And you know this. You know that when you live in a constant state of fear, it is no surprise that you have higher blood pressure, you don't sleep as well, you are more at risk for heart attack, your heart is not overall as healthy. You have all sorts of other fear-related problems. Now you may be thinking, well, I'm not afraid all the time. Well, let's shift it a little bit because we don't really talk about it as fear most of the time. Most of us don't say, oh, I'm so afraid right now. What we have decided to say, because it sounds, much more dressed up and impressive, is stressed. I am just so stressed. That is our new substitute word for fear. And not only do we substitute that word in for fear, a lot of times we elevate that to a desired place of being. Oh, I'm just so stressed. Why are you so stressed? Because I have so much to do. I am so responsible. I am so busy. Oh, we love that one too. I am so busy. Because if you're not busy, gosh, what are you doing with your life? So yeah, stress is our new word for fear. Now, you may not be buying into that. I was teaching a class in person, and one of the women there was like, I don't think my stress is rooted in fear. And I said, okay, well, let's talk about it. Let's see, what are you stressed about? And she said, well, I'm stressed about work. And I said, oh, okay. Why does work make you stressed? Well, there's just so much to do and I can't get it all done. It's overwhelming. Okay, so you can't get everything done at work. Why does that stress you out? Well, I have to report to my boss, and if I don't get it all done, my boss is going to be upset with me. Okay, well, why is that stressful if your boss is upset with you? And at this point, she's getting a little bit irritated with me. And she goes, well, I could lose my job. And I go, oh, so ultimately, you are stressed about work because you are afraid that you might lose your job. And it was like a revelation, like you had a little cartoon coming out of her head. Yeah, most of our stress is rooted in fear. In fact, stress is just a word that we have substituted for fear because it's not socially acceptable to walk around talking about how afraid you are. But we can talk about how stressed we are. And our faith and our physicians tell us that we were not designed to live that way. That being in a state of constant fear is not good for us spiritually, mentally, or physically. Is not a good way for us to be. We were literally not designed by the one who created us to live in a constant state of fear/stress. So I'm not going to just tell you to quit being stressed. That's so silly. That's like when you try to tell somebody who's angry to calm down. You just can't. It's not an option. However, we do need to think about what's causing our stress. And I think understanding and realizing and acknowledging that it is rooted in fear can really help us out. Because stress has become just a commonplace thing in our society, we need to, first of all, advocate for a world where stress is not okay. When someone is stressed, we should just go, oh yeah, I am too. We should go, oh, I am so sorry. What are you doing to fix that? Can you imagine saying that to people? Let's do that. Let's start saying that to people. Oh, I am just so stressed. Oh, really? I am so sorry. How are you addressing that? What are you doing to fix that for yourself? How could I help with that? That's a whole different conversation, y'all. So I think because of the fact that stress has become so normalized and in some cases even celebrated, we do not take the time to pause and think about what that stress is really rooted in. And I think if you will do that exercise that I did with the woman, and there's actually, if you have the Health Hacks little workbook that you've downloaded, there's a worksheet where you can actually work this out, but you don't have to have the worksheet. You can do what I did. Why am I stressed out about this? Well, because this. And why does that stress me out? Because this. And I can almost guarantee you that you will find your way to fear. And it's not like you can turn on a dime and snap your fingers and make the fear be gone, but you can realize that that is not a state that you are designed to be in, that you are not being the person that God created you to be, the person God wants for you to be when we stay in a constant state of stress. So, I have no permanent solutions for your stress. And of course, everybody's situation is different, but I think we all know things we can do in our lives that help when we are stressed. And we'll talk about that in another video. But for right now, as we enter into spooky season, just take some time and think, what are the things I'm stressed about? And how can I work through that and figure out what it is that I am really afraid of? And then once I can name that fear, and if you follow me at all, you know I am big on naming those fears, because we all know the only people who had the power to defeat Voldemort were the people who could say his name. There's great power in being able to name your fears. So take some time during spooky season. Begin to identify your stress as symptoms of fear, or even the same thing as fear. And think about what you can do to address, allay, and minimize those fears, knowing that it is so unhealthy for us all the way around, spiritually, emotionally, and physically, to be in that state. That is not what God wants for us. And man, if there is anything I know from the Bible that I am convinced of, it is that God does not want us to exist in a state of fear. It gets stated over and over and over and over again. So pay attention to your fear, pay attention to your stress, and see what you might do to address that. And as you work through that, let me know how I can help you.